If you had $30 billion, you could build a nuclear power plant. You probably shouldn't, because there is a very real chance you would spend $9 billion, employ thousands of people for the better part of a decade, and then walk away from a half-finished slab of concrete, having produced exactly 0 watts of electricity. That is not a hypothetical. It has already happened, and we'll get to the company it destroyed. And yet, right now, the richest corporations on Earth are scrambling to get their hands on nuclear plants. Microsoft, Amazon, and Google are paying premium prices, signing 20-year contracts, even reopening a reactor that the world had already written off as dead. Because here is the paradox that runs this entire industry. A nuclear plant is the most expensive, the slowest, and the most feared power station you can possibly build. And the moment it actually switches on, it becomes the cheapest, most reliable source of electricity on the planet for the next 80 years. And it all comes down to a single number that has nothing to do with what the thing costs to build. Get that number right, and the same machine that bankrupts one owner quietly mints a fortune for the next. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what that number is, and why the smart money is suddenly desperate to get its hands on it. Let's start with what one actually costs, because there is a ladder here, and most people only picture the top rung. At the bottom, at least on paper, is the small modular reactor, a compact design that's meant to be built in a factory and trucked to site. The promise is $1 to $3 billion for a few hundred megawatts. The catch is that almost none have actually been built yet, so that price is a forecast, not a receipt. The next rung up is a single full-scale reactor, realistically $6 to $9 billion. And then there's the flagship, 2 large reactors built together, the kind that can power a couple of million homes, $35 billion. That is not a typo, and it is not a building. That is the real final cost of the 2 new reactors at Plant Vogtle in Georgia. For $35 billion, you are no longer buying a power plant. You are buying something closer to an aircraft carrier that never moves. So why would anyone pay it? Because at the very top of this market sits the option nobody advertises, the one the smart money actually wants. You don't build a nuclear plant at all. You buy one that's already running. But here is what nobody comparing these numbers realizes at first. The price of a reactor has almost nothing to do with physics. It has to do with geography. The exact same reactor design can cost 3 times as much and take twice as long depending purely on which country you build it in. South Korea and China build modern reactors in around 5 to 6 years for a fraction of the Western price because they build them over and over with the same crews refining the process each time. The West forgot how. In the United States and much of Europe, a new plant now means 10 to 15 years and a budget that doubles before the concrete is even dry. Britain's Hinkley Point C, one single project, has climbed toward £46 billion. Same atoms, same steam. The only variable is whether the people pouring the concrete have done it recently. So you understand the ladder, and you understand why the geography matters. Now, how do you actually get hold of one? You have a few real options. The first is to build new, which, as we're establishing, is roughly how you turn a large fortune into a small one. The second, and far smarter, is to buy an existing operating plant or the company that owns a whole fleet of them. Firms like Constellation Energy and Vistra own dozens of reactors that are already paid off and already printing cash. You skip the construction risk entirely and buy the finished money machine. And the third option, the one that was almost unthinkable 5 years ago, is to take a reactor that was shut down for being uneconomic and switch it back on, which brings us to the deal that rewired this entire industry. And it starts at the most infamous nuclear address in America. In 2024, Microsoft signed a 20-year agreement with Constellation to reopen 3 Mile Island. Yes, that 3 Mile Island, the site of the most famous nuclear accident in American history. The undamaged reactor next door had been closed in 2019 because it simply couldn't make money selling power on the open market. Constellation is now spending around $1.6 billion to bring it back, and every electron it produces is already sold in advance to feed Microsoft's artificial intelligence data centers. Think about what that means. A reactor that was worthless for selling electricity to you and me is suddenly worth over $1 billion to restart, because an AI company needs enormous amounts of power that never ever stops. Amazon did its own version of this, paying around $650 million for a data center campus plugged straight into a nuclear plant. The thing the market hated for 20 years became the most valuable real estate in energy almost overnight. And here is that number, the one that explains the entire stampede. A well-run reactor runs flat out for more than 90% of every hour of every year. The industry calls it the capacity factor, and nothing else on the grid comes close. Your solar panels clock off at sunset. Your wind turbines stand still on a calm day. The reactor does not sleep. It does not know how. That single figure, 90%, is the whole reason Microsoft flew to Pennsylvania to buy power from a plant the market had already declared worthless. The fuel is almost an afterthought, so the cost to actually generate a unit of electricity can be roughly a third of what that electricity sells for. And the regulator, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, has been extending plant licenses out to 80 years. So a reactor your grandfather's company finished paying for can keep generating pure profit for your grandchildren. A paid-off nuclear plant isn't a power station. It's an annuity that happens to glow. That is the version of the story everyone tells at the energy conference. Here is the part they leave off the slide. So if the math is this good, why does anyone ever lose? Because the bill doesn't end when the plant is built. It ends, if you're lucky, about a century later. There are two enormous costs hiding in the tail, and they're the ones that never make it into the pitch. The first is decommissioning. When a reactor finally retires, you are legally required to take it apart and scrub the site clean, a job that runs $500 million to over $1 billion per reactor and can take decades. And here is the trap. You do not feel that cost the year you buy the plant, or the decade after. It just sits in the books, growing quietly for 60 years, until one day it comes due. By then, the person who signed the purchase agreement is long gone, and it is somebody else's problem. The second is the waste. The United States spent decades planning a permanent waste repository at Yucca Mountain. It never opened, so every plant in the country now stores its own spent fuel on site, in sealed concrete and steel casks, essentially forever. And the federal government has paid out billions of dollars in damages for breaking its promise to take it away. You are not just buying a power plant. You are adopting a liability with a half-life measured in thousands of years. But here is the part that nobody buying a nuclear plant wants to put in writing. The most expensive version of this dream has already detonated in public, and it vaporized one of the biggest names in the business. In South Carolina, two utilities began building a pair of reactors at a site called VC Summer. They poured in around $9 billion. And in 2017, with the reactors nowhere near finished, they simply stopped, abandoned. The contractor building them, Westinghouse, the legendary American company whose reactor design half the world uses, filed for bankruptcy that same year. Customers in South Carolina are still paying for those reactors on their electricity bills, reactors that will never produce a single watt. And here is the unnerving part. The numbers never stopped looking survivable. They looked survivable on the day the contractors stopped showing up. They looked survivable in the bankruptcy filing itself. The whole was never a surprise. It was simply invisible from above, right up until the people who had sunk $9 billion into it were standing at the bottom. And even Plant Vogtle, the one project that did finish, came in 7 years late and more than double its budget, and nearly took its owners down with it. Construction in this business is where fortunes go to die, and the comeback we're living through rests on a foundation that nobody fully controls. Start with the one that haunts every owner. A single accident, not at your plant, not even in your country, anywhere on Earth, reprices every reactor on the planet overnight. Germany watched Fukushima happen on the far side of the world and shut down its entire nuclear fleet within a few years. Fear is a line item in this business, and it can be triggered from 5,000 miles away. On top of that, the whole revival leans on government subsidies, production tax credits worth up to around $15 for every unit of power these plants push onto the grid. And it leans on the artificial intelligence boom staying exactly as hungry for electricity as it is today. Pull away any one of those three, and the beautiful math starts to wobble. So this is why the smartest operators have stopped trying to build at all. They let someone else, usually a government or a desperate utility, take the construction risk and the bankruptcy. Then they buy the finished plants or restart the cheap shut ones and lock in 20-year contracts with tech giants who will pay almost anything for power that never blinks. They sit on the government subsidies. They let the small modular reactor dreamers burn through venture capital, proving the concept. Constellation and Vistra, the companies that simply own existing reactors, have seen their share prices multiply while the dreamers building new ones went bankrupt. The principle is the one every survivor here has learned. The money was never in splitting the atom. The money is in owning the finished machine at the exact moment the world remembers it needs one, which is exactly why it works. You don't get rich building a nuclear power plant. You get rich owning one that somebody else already went broke building. For 20 years, the world treated these plants as expensive, frightening relics and let them sit there, depreciating, unloved, switched off. And then artificial intelligence arrived with a bottomless hunger for electricity that never stops. And overnight, the most feared asset in energy became the most strategically valuable real estate on the grid. It is the only thing that can run 1 million servers at 3 in the morning without the lights so much as flickering. You are not buying a reactor. You are buying the one power source the future cannot function without, at the tail end of the 20 years everyone spent ignoring it. So here is the question. If someone handed you a paid-off reactor tomorrow, a machine quietly printing money for the next 80 years, what would you actually do with it? Would you keep it running and become the most essential utility in your region? Or would you do a steward, sell the building, pull out the cash, and get gone before anyone noticed the wiring was missing? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know which kind of owner you'd turn out to be.